Hi everyone, welcome to our last session of AM virtual event. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for those of you who have been tuning in here and there all through the week. So for our last but certainly not least session, I'm joined by Clint Singh from Clinical Photopro. Hi Clint.
Hi, Georgia. Hi. Thank you so much for
Hi.
having me.
No, thank you for being here. So Clinical Photo Pro specialises in lighting in the aesthetics kind of sector. Clint does some really interesting things around lighting, and we were kind of just saying before we went live, weren't we, that it's all about for you making it really simple. So with that being said, we actually have a pre-recorded video already. So Clint's obviously here now, and we're going to do a Q&A live at the end. But he has pre-recorded a presentation for us, which is all about how to make this really simple for your before and afters, so that you are showing your work in the best possible light. No pun intended, kind of pun intended. Okay, so we're going to get started with the video in a minute. And then what we'll do is, so Clint and I will both turn our cameras off now, and then we'll put back on at the end and we will do a Q&A. So any questions, just pop them in the chat box down here. They'll be moderated, and then we'll go through them at the end. So I think we have Lucy on standby to start the vid for us. Fab, thanks, Luce. And then we'll turn our cameras off and let's get going.
Hello, everyone. I'm Clint Singh. I run Clinical Photopro, and I work with clinics in the aesthetics industry to create products to solve their photography problems. So I'm here today to tell you more about taking before and afters, in particular how to take bulletproof before and afters and how to protect your reputation. So before I start, I apologize if I appear slightly nervous. My presentation skills are not that good because I'm usually behind the camera and not in front of it. Capturing your patients photographically is the only true testament to your work. The industry is producing incredible quality, but the recording of this quality is not being shown. There's a lack of standardization. So not only does this limit you showcasing your work, but this inaccurate client documentation can be damaging to your reputation. So if you stick with me throughout the webinar, I'm going to show you specifically what we are doing wrong, how to fix it, and also give you two out-of-the-box solutions that will give you results without you having to go get a degree in photography. For those clinics that want the absolute best possible quality images, we're going to look at a pro DSLR setup and a solution for mobile phones, especially for those clinics that have invested in patient management apps on these devices. So before I go on, my background, before I got involved in the aesthetics market, my speciality as a professional photographer was photography training. I run off-the-grid adventure photography workshops, in particular in the Arctic, where I train my clients on the skills of photography, then guide them in extreme off-the-grid locations to explore these skills. As a professional photographer, your ability to understand and control light is your biggest asset. So let's see where that fits in with the aesthetics industry. So what exactly is going on with our before and afters, and how did we get to this? Well, we want quick and easy solutions. So the easiest option is to use our mobile phones and tablets. These are fantastic pieces of technology capable of taking stunning images without the user having to know any of the complications of photography. But in order to do this, they operate in auto. They take a light reading and adjust the camera settings to give you what it perceives is a well-balanced image. So this is perfect for holiday photos and selfies, but how do they cope with precision results to document your patients? Try taking a photo of the same subject at the same place at different times of the day. And here's the big problem. As the ambient light in the room changes, the camera adjusts its settings, shutter speed, aperture, ISO, and color temperature, giving you images that are at times so inconsistent it is difficult to see the actual procedure you've carried out on the patient, and certainly not the kind of images you want to fall back on in case of litigation. But as far as the camera is concerned, it's done its job. It's giving you a well-balanced image in an environment that you provided. So how do we fix this, and what sort of standardization is needed? The ideal goal for before and afters is to have two images that look nearly identical, apart from the work you've done. Your results should be obvious. Consistency here is key. When I started Clinical Photopro, and after getting feedback from as many clinics as I could, this is what we found was needed. Firstly, consistent image quality. Ease of use. You should not have to be a professional photographer to get these images. We have to bridge this gap. It needs to be practical without the need for a dedicated room. Your clinics are set up in prime locations. No one's got spare rooms to give up. We have to address this. To better understand, let's look at what's going on when we take a photo and how this impacts your results. Firstly, the shutter speed, and we use this to control motion. What's important to remember here is if there's not enough light, the camera is going to slow down the shutter speed and your images are not going to be sharp. Next is aperture, which is responsible for depth of field, or really which part of the image you want to be in focus. Then there's ISO, which is the sensitivity of the sensor and really controls the amount of digital noise on the image. So if there's not enough light, the camera is going to make the ISO higher, and you're going to get noise. Color temperature is how warm or cool light is. When your cell phones and tablets shoot in auto, these four components are working hand in hand to give you a well-balanced image. The biggest cause of your images being inconsistent is changing ambient light. As the sun moves through the sky, the color and strength of this light is constantly changing. You cannot compete with the sun, so don't try taking your before and afters in a room that is lit with natural night light or near a window. You will not get consistency. Remember, these settings are constantly changing with the camera set in auto, so for consistency between your before and afters, we need these settings and the light source to be consistent. When it comes to achieving the best possible quality with the most consistent results, there is no substitute for a professional DSLR camera and a professional lighting system. Firstly, these cameras have big sensors, and the advantage of this is they will produce large images without you losing quality. Produce large images and let you crop really tight without you losing quality. But most importantly, those auto settings that are giving you inconsistent results can now all be controlled manually. So if you are using a DSLR camera and not getting the results you want, here are some reasons why. Firstly, is it in auto? It has to be in manual for consistency. The lighting for this setup is crucial, and it needs to be strobe or flash units triggered by the camera and set to balance out these settings we've programmed. If these lights are set to auto, they will adjust their power according to what the camera sees. This as well must be in manual. Another possible cause of your images looking different is the positioning of light between sessions. Basically, the further away we put the light source from the subject, the less light falls on them. So most importantly, to get consistency, we need to keep the distance of the light and the subject the same. I know this sounds obvious, but even a small distance here, like 15 centimeters, will have an impact on your results. This is really important. So that takes care of lighting consistency. But what about other issues with your before and afters? What you want to avoid is your images being different sizes when you put them together. And this is going to happen when you take them from different distances. The easiest solution for this is to actually use the viewfinder on the camera. So you don't need a tripod or to measure any distances. If you use the layout on the viewfinder, then use two areas on the subject as a reference point. Like in this case, I'm using the subject's lips and hairline as a reference for a headshot. Then the distance between the camera and the subject between sessions will be the same. And of course, you can use this for any body part. You want to avoid distractions in the background and use a backdrop and a color that will give you contrast with the subject. A pull-down blind works well for this. In the past, this sort of professional setup was impractical. You needed expert knowledge, cumbersome equipment, and a dedicated room. It could not be portable. Not only did the distance of the lights need to be the same, but the angle and distance of the soft boxes could not be altered. So once it was set up, you could not interfere with anything. There's also hundreds of combinations of cameras, lenses, lighting units, and triggers to look at, and that's even before you start to configure them. So it is not surprising that clinics go the mobile phone route. So how do we bridge this gap without you having the inconvenience of going through this complicated setup and not having to give up a dedicated room? Out of the box solution one, after much research, the solution that we've developed to maximize your time with your patients is to source the equipment, pre-configure it, and then provide it to you in a kit. So there's no installation, no cables, and you don't need a degree in photography. These studio light towers that we've developed use the interior of the room to create the ideal lighting environment. Think of it as the lighting version of the soundbar under your TV. Well, you now no longer need to go and find optimum placement of the lights. Just place the lights in a predefined position and you have consistent lighting. Let's look at some results. So this is ideal for a quick solution for high resolution headshots. Again, there is no setup. You're getting these results out of the box. And of course, you can use them to document the abdominal area. So provided your clinic has a ceiling height of about 2.5 meters, you will get results like this out of the box, as I said. This is all well and good, but we cannot ignore the brilliance of our mobile devices. They're packed with technology to make our lives easier, with the imaging devices getting better each year as each manufacturer tries to outdo each other with the release of new models. Surely there's a solution, especially as so many clinics are already tied into subscription systems with their patient management apps. There's a gap in the market here. We've got the gap in technologies. On one hand, you have the pro setup, and on the other, there's the convenience of our mobile devices. But they are not delivering the results. Why isn't there a halfway point to this? What is missing? For those clinics that want the convenience of their mobile devices and apps, there actually is something that's been overlooked that will give us the results we want. And the solution is light. Let's rewind a little. Remember, we discussed how the changing ambient light was the reason your mobile devices were giving you images of different exposure and color. Well, think about it. If you provide a light source of constant power and constant color, then those auto settings that were previously changing now become constant. But the trick is using the correct light source. There are some obvious options that might appear appropriate. For example, overhead office fluorescent lamps might appear to be a good choice, but they aren't color balanced. And they also may be too high in the ceiling to throw enough light on the subject. Remember, if there's not enough light, the camera is going to slow down the shutter speed and your images will not be sharp. You're also getting light from overhead, so it's going to throw shadows. You're going to go see shadows under the nose, under the lips, under the chin, and that's not what we want. Remember, what we want to do is create a stable lighting environment to trick the camera to use these values, to make these values static. The ideal solution are LED lights balanced for average daylight, but they need to be of the right power, needs to be enough of them, and they need to be placed appropriately. Direction of lights here are really important. So let's look at that. Flat light in this application is light that is lighting the subject from the same angle as the camera. This type of lighting will tend to flatten out any contrast and will tend to hide detail and depth. There are many LED devices on the market that some of you may be using. Here I'm using an LED ring light. If you're not getting results you want using one of these, here's the reason why. These and other LED devices are great video lights. You can also use them for photography, but for additional lighting. So you can use them to add in light where there's shadows. But remember, we've now made a very big change to the environment. We've removed the ambient lights and the room may not be as bright as it was before. So this now immediately changes how the camera reacts to these devices. This is now a single light source and it may not be lighting the subject uniformly. As a result, the camera struggles to balance this. Like in this case, it results in areas of the image being overexposed. And of course, this is flat light, so we've lost all of that contrast, depth, and detail. We can solve this using directional lights, and we want light to wrap around the subject, and we do this by using two light sources. We want to replicate an environment of a large light source so the subject is uniformly lit with high quality balanced light. But the solution is not that straightforward. A camera in auto is extremely sensitive to variations in light, so using two lights on adjustable stands will give you too many variations to replicate. Remember, consistency here is key. Well, we have a solution. Out-of-the-box solution to LED light towers is a product that we've been working on for the past year. It creates an incredible stable lighting environment. The lights are calibrated to replicate daylight, and the positioning causes light to fall uniformly on the subject. Most importantly, it forces the camera to use virtually the same settings between sessions. The towers are portable, so can be stored away, leaving you with maximum floor space, and can be moved to different treatment rooms. So let's look at some results. These are straight out of my phone. Look at the detail here. These images are pin sharp and show everything. A big advantage of using a directional lighting system like this is it emphasizes results on any part of the body. So for example, if you want to showcase your cool sculpting or M-Sculpt work and want promotional images like those used by these companies, this is how it's done. And if you want your images to look really defined, here's a good trick. You can switch off one of the towers, which throws a light just from one side. These images were actually taken only seconds apart, but look at the difference. Unfortunately, my lighting system alone won't give you these abs. You may be wondering why the lights are so tall. Well, The height of the lights let you photograph any part of the body quickly without having to make adjustments. So you don't know adjustments to the light, and you also don't need to make the patient stand on a platform. You can document different procedures on different parts of the body without having to make adjustments. Remember, consistency is key. So this is really important. If you're trying to replicate this by getting light panels and trying to mount them on a tripod, remember the amount of variations involved are just way too much, and you're going to struggle to replicate that. So what we've done is really created a lighting unit where the variations have been limited to only 2 placements. So like we did with the DSLR camera, you can activate a grid system on your mobile devices, and again, using 2 reference points to maintain image size between sessions. So by providing an environment with constant, high quality, balanced light, your camera phones will be forced to use optimal settings, giving you the best possible quality and consistency. Before we go any further, let's look at some issues using mobile phone cameras. Firstly, there's security. You know privacy laws well, so please keep this in mind if you're using your personal device. A better option is to use one that's dedicated to the clinic. Image quality, you starting off with about half the resolution of a DSLR camera. Well, what does that mean? Well, you have a smaller image, so you're limited to how much you can crop the image before it becomes pixelated. Perspective distortion, a problem with camera phones, with the camera phone on a mobile device, is that if you move too close to the subject, your image will look as if you are looking through a security peephole in the door. You can prevent this by keeping a minimum distance from the subject. But if you're using a DSLR camera, you won't have this problem, as you can zoom in optically, where with the smartphone, you have a fixed focal length. So I have one more trick for you. If you combine this combination of LED lighting with the DSLR camera optimized in manual for this environment, you have now ticked all the boxes to give you the most accurate and consistent results. A professional setup like this will give you the best possible quality in your clinic without the need of hiring a professional studio. Today, social media is a big part of your marketing that cannot be ignored. And in order to capture your audience, you need to be posting almost on a daily basis. However, you're going to find that you're quickly going to run out of content to post, and clinics end up using stock images. Your audience want to see the results of your work. Clinics are missing a trick here. Each patient coming through your door is a potential marketing opportunity to showcase your work. You have to document them anyway for your insurance. If you do this properly, you now have a constant stream of professional quality images at your disposal. So there you have it. You have 3 options to document professional quality, bulletproof before and afters. Just before I finish, let's recap with a few pro tips. Try and make the room as dark as possible. Close curtains and blinds and try and remove as much of that ambient light as you can. Keep the distance of the subject and the light source constant. Use the guidelines on your viewfinder to maintain the same distance. A good tip here is to review your before images and use the grid in the same way to take your after images. Avoid distractions in the background. Use a backdrop, a pull-down blind works well for this. Use the same camera between sessions. Different devices will give you different results. So in a clinic, you may have a phone and a tablet. These two are not going to give you the same results. And also, a tablet may not have the same sensor. Quite often, you're going to find with the same manufacturer, the tablet will probably have a much smaller sensor, so it's going to give you lower resolution images. So please keep that in mind. If you follow these steps combined with an appropriate light source, you now have a set of images that are the same size, the same exposure, and the same color. So this lets you see your results really easily. These images can now be used to discuss results with your patient, to showcase your work for marketing, and you have the best possible quality images to fall back on as a testament to your work. Remember, consistency is key. Some questions that I've come across in the past, I've just got two main ones I want to quickly go over. Someone's asked in the past, like with regards to the LED product, is there an app? Well, no, because what's changing here is the external environment, namely light coming from outside, and we can't really control that light outside. However, there are so many amazing patient management apps out there on the market that simplify your administration and maximize your time with the patient. My product is really the missing link between that, because those pieces of those apps can't control the light. What I've done is created a stable lighting environment which now complements any patient management app that you may already have. Another question, does the room have to be completely dark using the LED product? Well, no, the lighting unit is powerful enough to overcome some ambient light. But what you don't want is to be using it in a room that is well lit with ambient light or near a window. So for the most consistent results, you want to close all the blinds and curtains and limit as much of that light as possible. So thank you for your time today. I hope you enjoyed the talk. Do have a look at my website, clinicalphotopro.co.uk. If you'd like more pro tips, look for the pro tips link. And of course, you're going to get more information on these products and on new developments in this area. Thank you again for your time, and do get in touch if I could. Thank you again for your time, and do get.
Wonderful. Thank you, Clint, for that wonderful presentation you made earlier for us. I'm going to just... Oh, okay, there we are. Yeah, that was fab. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have quite a few questions have just come in.
Great.
So we'll go through them. Obviously, I know you answered a few common Q&A FAQs there, but I'm just going to read these to you. So, okay, so someone's asking about the cost of 2 of your light towers. Then you may rather not answer that one here. That's absolutely fine. We can ask that person to get in touch with you directly, whatever you prefer.
Yeah, no, that's fine. If you're happy for me to do it here, I don't mind. Yeah. So, it's not just the lights; it's a complete product where you're getting all the bits and pieces, and most important, it's the setup for this. So the light units with the backdrops, with the matting, and 2 hours of my time to help you set it up and give you this consistency is £2,035.
Fab.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, and then so someone's asking, which pull-down photo screen and camera do you recommend? So are there any particular brands or specific products that you would recommend?
Yes, so it's very specific for the lighting units, because we're using, especially if you're using your mobile phone, it's working with reflected light. So the background is very specific, and again, it's one of my products, so it's not something that you can go and buy off the shelf. When it comes to the DSLR camera, we're using a model that is just before the Pro series, so you've got to be able to use very, very specifically the color temperature. You've got to be able to control that manually. So what we do is, with providing the camera with the kit, with the bigger kit, we also provide the backup for that. So in case the camera ever does give trouble, we've got replacements that come out to you the next day. So yeah, so it isn't a specific camera, but if you got the lights, they will actually work with any camera, especially with your mobile phone. So that's going to make the biggest difference.
Perfect, thank you. And actually, yeah, with the mobile phone kind of being a key point here, I know you have also been creating some really handy tips and a bit of content lately with regards to people doing phone consultations with patients. Mm-hmm. And you did create a really good little video for us, which is actually on our YouTube channel. But do you maybe just, I know it's a bit difficult because you had lots of handy diagrams in that video, but mm-hmm. do you want to maybe just quickly talk through some key tips and advice for practitioners when they're trying to assess a patient's skin over, say, Zoom or something, and that they can't really see properly because of lighting issues?
Yeah, so it can be very difficult. So the trick to it is you've got to be able to guide the patient. So what you do want to do is get them near a window, and what's going to happen is the camera is now going to adjust the light, the reflected lights again, to that environment. So if you get them as close as possible to a window, and they hold the phone roughly about, you can get as close to about 2 inches away from the skin, and the camera will readjust and focus, and you'll be able to get the best possible quality. But if you turn that around with the window behind them, then the camera is now going to readjust and underexpose that image, and it's also going to see the background, and you're not going to get the quality you want.
Thank you. I'm actually just going to post the link to that video in the chat box because that was really handy. And then also, would you say that same advice goes for, I know we were just talking earlier, Clint was watching one of my webinars I did earlier in the week and had some really good points to make about how I was lighting myself. So is that the same, is it the same basic premise that carries across? Because obviously a lot of people watching at the moment might also be hosting their own or taking part in their own webinars within the industry at the moment. So do the same principles apply?
Yeah, exactly the same. I mean, you see it every day on television, and some really bad lighting. But all you've got to do is, if you can, is set yourself up next to a window such that the light is coming in and facing you. If you turn that around, the lighting is going to be at its worst. The camera is going to struggle. Or if you're sitting sideways to the window, again, you're going to be sidelit, and the camera is going to struggle to light half of your face. So the best option is to turn and face the window, and you get the best lighting, and the camera is going to adjust to that.
Fab, thank you. I've just popped the link in so everyone can have a look at the advice of what to tell your clients for consults. Cool. I think that's probably all our questions answered. I think we've got touch for. There's lots of people in the comments, Clint, saying thank you, how informative, and what a good lecture that was. So thank you. Yeah, and a few people saying that they're going to get in touch with you when they get back into the clinic. So do you want to just remind us again how people can get in touch with you, and your social handles or anything like that?
Yeah, so the best place is my website, because you're going to get updated information there, and that's clinicalphotopro.co.uk. There's videos there, there's information, and as I upgrade and evolve the product, there's also going to be information there. On Instagram, it's at Clinical Photopro, and my email address is info@clinicalphotopro.co.uk.
Fab. We've actually just had one more question come in.
Oh, great.
So let's just do that quickly. Okay, so someone has said our treatment rooms have no windows and we have spotlights on our ceilings. We use an iPad to take photos. Do you have any advice on how to reduce shadowing?
Yeah, unfortunately, you're getting the shadowing because like in the presentation, I was talking about the lights coming from the top, and you're always going to get that problem. And I've been working 2 years on this product to try and solve all the problems. And this is what we came up is with are these lighting units. So as you can see, because they're so tall, they're not going to throw any shadows. So for that particular problem, unfortunately, with light coming from the top, there's really no way to solve that. What you need to do is have a lighting system that uniformly lights the client. And I've really struggled in the last 2 years to come up with a solution, because if you just take a lighting unit with a lot of power, the camera is really going to struggle to expose that light. So the trick is to uniformly light the client, but also being able to replicate this, because if you don't have a specific room, and most clinics don't, you're having to move this and bring them back into place. Now, to be able to accurately replicate this environment time and time again is almost impossible trying to use tripods or other lighting units. And this is why these lighting units have got no moving parts. So you just stick them up, you put them in on the marker on the floor mat, and they're ready to go. So yeah, and also just to say, especially during this time of the lockdown, we really need to pull our resources together. And really, what I'd like to do is give clinics this opportunity to bring a lot of these skills in house. If you go to hire a photographer to get content, to get matter, it costs a lot. I mean, you probably after 2 sessions with a pro photographer would have paid for these lights, and you've now got this in your clinic, and it's going to give you a constant stream of professional quality images that you can use for social media time and time again. And as technology changes, so your phones and cameras change, and you upgrade that, the lights will stay, because the science of light is not going to change. So it's a huge saving in the future.
Worth doing, yeah. Another question.
Yeah.
Cool. So someone has asked, will the lighting system still work in a very bright room with a bay window, obscured glass, but no means of darkening the room?
Unfortunately, there are some limitations, and that is one of it. So, you unfortunately cannot compete with the power of the sun. And at that point, we do have other systems where you got flash lighting, and then that would work, but not with these units here, because these are made to work with a mobile phone or a camera in auto. So yeah, if you did have a situation like that where you can't darken the room during the presentation, the first option that I spoke about was the one that will actually work in a room that's well lit, and you can't make it dark.
Could you just remind us of what that was again?
Yeah, so they are light towers that they basically use the shape of the room to bounce light. So instead of setting up studio units throughout the room, and again not having room that needs to be dedicated, they're portable units that stand in place, but they work with the DSLR camera. So the camera is now configured to, when it goes off, to use the settings to kill the ambient light. And when that happens, the room is now dark according to the camera. So the lights then flash power and will light up the room. So that's how we get around that.
So it can be solved.
Yeah. It can be solved, but not with these lights.
Yeah.
These lights are specifically for using a camera in auto.
Yeah. Okay. Fab. Well, that is all we've got time for now. Thank you so much, everyone, for your questions. And thank you, Clint. That was brilliant. And like I said, there's lots of comments saying how helpful and informative people found that. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much.
Well, that actually wraps up the AM virtual event. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time to join us for these sessions. We hope you found them useful. And I've just seen, so someone's just asking about claiming CPD points. If you just want to check back on the event page for the virtual event on Facebook, I will get all the information, just with details of how you claim that, put in there. So we'll make sure everyone knows how to go about doing that. And yeah, thank you very much for joining us, everyone. Thank you again, Clint. That was wonderful.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I hope everyone has a lovely weekend. And yeah, thank you so much. We will, Clint, we will speak to you soon. Oh, and I was just going to mention, actually, if there's any, just off the back of you saying that you would like to kind of help people figure out some solutions at the moment whilst we're in lockdown and kind of pooling resources together and stuff. If anyone wants to get in touch with us at AM, if there's anything else that you would like to ask Clint, or perhaps some more kind of informative content from him, I'm sure you'd be happy to help, wouldn't you, Clint, with some
Definitely, my pleasure. Just get in touch. Again, those you've got that the information on my website and my email address. Get in touch and I'm more than happy to help you.
Yeah, we can always just pop a bit more content up to help people. So, okay, thank you, everyone. I'm going to shut up and go now. You're probably all sick of hearing my voice this week. Yes. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.